Hello and welcome to probably your last video of this year. This is so exciting. We're getting ready for our last exam. Oh, I'm Mrs. Phipps from the Falcon team. So we're going to go through every single problem on your review just to refresh your memory and give you some hints if you have forgotten. So on the first problem we're looking at is Lydia's making cookies for a bake sale. She wants to raise $50 or more. She is selling each cookie for 50 cents and she has to pay $10 for the booth. Select the inequality that represents it. Hey, before you start selecting it, let's just think about it for a second, and let's look at our paper and mark it up. She wants to raise $50 or more, okay? So if you think about it, does she want to have less than 50, or does she want to have more than 50? Always kind of think of that before. So if we have 50 here, and we're comparing it to how much money she wants, okay? She wants to raise $50 or more, so that's her money. Okay, well, what does her money consist of? She has to pay $10 for the booth, so she has to pay that out. That's going to be a subtraction. So we can automatically eliminate that one if we want to do that. She's going to get 50 cents per cookie for each cookie. Do we know how much each cookie is? Nope, that's X. So we're going to get 50 cents for each cookie, but we have to pay out $10 for the booth. That's going to be her money. Okay, and let's also remember that each cookie, that's our X. Okay, that's going to be our cookie, or the number of cookies. I doubt if you can read that. That's supposed to say number of cookies. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to just solve this inequality. Oh, wait. Number one, we just have to match it. Let's see. 0.5 minus 10, less than, nope, doesn't work. 0.5 minus 10C, nope. Oh, we have to have a C. They want a C. Okay, 0.5C minus 10 is greater. No, because we want to have $50 or more. 0.50x minus 10. Yep, there we go. It's E. Awesome job. Now they want us to calculate the solution. So that means we're just going to solve this inequality. So we have a 10. We have this number that doesn't have the variable, but on the same side. So we're going to add 10 to both sides. Therefore, we get 0.50C is greater than or equal to 60. We have multiplication, so we're going to get rid of that by dividing by 0.50. And we get C is greater than or equal to 120. Okay, so we calculated. We did that up here. Okay, be sure to show your work and write your solution as an inequality. There's my inequality. Okay, now they want us to interpret it. Lydia will have to sell at least 120 cookies to reach her goal. Okay, so 120 cookies to reach your goal. Calculate the solution to the following inequality. Show all your work. Okay, so let's look at it. We want to look at the number that's on the same side of the variable, but not directly connected. We have an 8. If I have an 8, how do I get rid of the 8? I subtract 8. So therefore, I have negative 10C is less than 90. Okay, we're going to divide by negative 10, and we get C, divide by a negative. What happens when we divide by a negative? That's right, our inequality sign goes to the opposite direction. And then we're going to have a negative 9. Okay? Good. Now remember, if you haven't already practiced it, or if you want to practice it again, cover it up and try it on your own. Okay? You can always pause your video and come back into what I'm doing. So here we go. Again, what's the number that's on the same side of the variable but doesn't have the variable? The 0.5. They're trying to trick us here because they're like, usually we divide by the small number. We're not going to. We have a positive. We're going to subtract it. Even though I have subtraction, I still have to subtract because you're looking at how do I get rid of 0.5? I have a positive. I'm going to add a negative. So I get negative 6y is less than or equal to 49.5. Okay, I have multiplication. What do? I'm going to divide. Now, a lot of people draw a line right through here. That is a great thing, wherever that inequality is. It's a great thing to do. It's not something I remember to do, but it's a great thing to do. Divide by negative 6, and we get y. We divide it by a negative. Therefore, inequality sign goes the opposite direction. And we get a negative 8.25. Now let's think, people. Look at these two problems. We had two very similar. We had to divide by a negative. Do you think you might have to do this on this exam? Yeah, pay attention to those. We're kind of trying to give you a few clues. Okay, next page. The hiking club is on a hike down a cliff. For safety reasons, the lowest elevation they are allowed to reach is 75 below sea level. They begin at an elevation of 25 feet and descend at a rate of 2.5 feet per minute. Okay, so the first thing they do is so let's look at it, and on something like this, it's nice to draw a picture. So we're starting at 25, we're going to go down to 75 below, so that's a negative 75 in our math world. It's going to be a negative 75. Okay, and they descend at a rate of 2 feet. Well, what does descend mean? It means you go down. So I'm going down, that's a negative, so that'd be a negative 2.5 per minute, okay? Whenever we have that per minute, that's going to be our variable, or per anything. It's going to pretty much be our variable. So that's going to be our variable is the number of minutes. So x is number of minutes. And that's going to help us if we kind of write that out so we know. Okay. Could the hiking club descend for 30 minutes? Could we go for 30 minutes and still be above our negative 75? Well, let's do that. So we're going to start at 25. Okay, we're going to go for 30 minutes at negative 2.5. So we're going to take negative 2.5. We're going to go for 30 minutes, and we multiply that out. I had to grab my calculator, so when I multiply this, I'm going to get a negative 75. Okay. So if I start at 25 and I go down 75, will I be still above my limit? Yeah, I will be, because I'm going to take 25 minus 75, or plus a negative, okay, and that gives me a negative 50, right? So yeah, are we above 75? We sure are. We're good. Okay, now let's write an inequality. So we have to stay above negative 75. Okay, so we want to look at it that our hike has to be greater than or equal to negative 75. We have to be above. We can go to 75, but we can't go below it. Well, what does our hike consist of? Well, we start at 25 feet, and then we descend. So we subtract, or we can add a negative. Either way is fine. That a number of minutes, so negative 2.5, and we want that to be greater than or equal to negative 75. Okay, so we have our inequality now, and now we're going to solve it. So we want to get rid of the number that doesn't have the variable, subtract 25. We get negative 2.5x is greater than or equal to negative 100. We're going to divide by negative 2.5, and we get x is greater than or equal to 40. Okay, so what does that mean? Whoops, sorry, you might not have been able to see that. So now, if I were to interpret this, and you should always, I know it doesn't say that, it just says solve, but you should always interpret, what does that mean? What is x is greater than or equal to? Oh, find my mistake. What's my mistake? Yes, that is right. I divided by a negative. Oh my gosh. My inequality sign would switch. So now let's interpret the correct inequality. So the correct inequality, x is less than or equal to 40. So what does that mean? Well, let's look back up. X is the number of minutes. So their hike is 40 minutes or less. Okay, 40 minutes or less. Good. Now that might not include back up, blah, 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 blah. We're just talking about going down. Okay, number 7. On a Sunday afternoon, oh, you've all read these 20 million times, right? So let's pick out the important things. The temperature is dropping. So we're going to go down. It starts at 50. Dropped at a steady rate per, look at that per again. That's going to be your x. So x is the number of hours. Okay? If the temperature descends for 5 hours, descends, that's weird to put that word. Anyway, will it be colder than 14 degrees? So here we go. We have that we're going to drop by 6 degrees. In math, what are we going to do? Yep, that's a negative. So we're going to drop by negative 30. We started at 50. We're going to drop by 30. We're going to end up at 20. Is that colder than 14 degrees? Nope. Okay. And what's this, show your work or explain? This is showing our work or explaining. That's an explanation by showing our work. Good. Write an inequality to show the minimum number of minutes that the temperature must be dropped to be colder than 14 degrees. Okay, we went minutes and hours. Hold on a second. So, I forgot to say this. This is hours, and I know you were already told this by your wonderful teacher, so it's not a problem, but that is supposed to be hours right there, which works out much better for what we're doing. Okay, so here we go. We're going to write an inequality. So remember what we're talking about again. We want it to be 14, what was it, 14 degrees. When will it be colder than 14 degrees? Write an inequality to show the minimum number of hours that the temperature must drop to be colder than. Colder. So look at, here's our boundary again, 14 degrees. Do we want higher or lower? We want lower. We want less than. We want less than 14 degrees. But do we want it to be equal to? That's what the weird thing about this. Colder than. Not colder than or equal to, just colder than. So we want our temperature. Okay, now how does our temperature work? Well, we start at 50, okay, and then we're going to go down. So you can either go subtract or you can go plus a negative 6 degrees per hour. And I put an X up here. Check on Schoology and see what they have is less than 14, okay? So if the variable is different, it's okay. Just look to see what variable they used. You'll be fine. So now, here we go, we're going to solve this. Choose the number that doesn't have the variable. I have a positive 50, so I'm going to subtract 50 or add a negative because I have to get this to be 0. So negative 6h is less than, pause, you know me in subtraction, hold on. I had to get out my calculator, it's negative 36, okay? And now we're going to divide by negative 6. Oh, what did I just say? Divide by a negative. That means my inequality sign has to go the opposite direction. So we're going to get h is greater than 6. So, solve your inequality, but we always interpret, even if they don't ask for it. What does this mean? It's going to be 6 hours, 6 hours or more, okay, because h is greater than 6. So 6 hours or more to do that, to get to be colder. To be colder. Hey, how do we spell colder? Not with an R. Not there anyway. Colder than 14 degrees. Okay. See mistakes? Not a problem. Just erase and keep going. Okay, next one. Write an inequality for each situation. The library is having a party for any student that reads at least 25 books. Priya read X books and was invited to the party. So let's look at this first. X is the number of books. And I think our world is in books, and so sometimes it's easier to write words. At least. So my books have to be greater than. Can they be equal? Yes, they can. Greater than or equal to 25. So now let's go to Priya. Priya is always the amazing one. Have you noticed that? She always does everything right, it seems like. Priya read X books and was invited to the party. So her number of books is greater than or equal to 25. That's Priya's. Okay? Let's look now at Kieran's. Poor Kieran. Okay? Kieran read X books over the summer but was not invited to the party. Okay? So that meant that her books were less than 25. Her books were less than 25. Okay? Now, on these two, what we have to do is we just have to write the inequality. So, I like to always put my variable on the left-hand side for lots of reasons. But one of them, and I'll explain that just in a second. So now let's look at it. Is that an open or a closed circle? It's closed. It's a closed circle. And it's less than. It's smaller. Where's it? It's getting smaller. So it's less than. Is it equal to? Yeah, because it's filled in. There's that licorice filling it all in. So it's going to be less than or equal to 25. Okay? Let's look at D. Still on the 25. I'm going to always put the X here, the 25 here. But notice my inequality is getting bigger, and also if you put the variable on the left-hand side, your graph will always go the same direction. So X is greater than 25. Is it equal to? Nope. See, there's no licorice filling it in. Number 9. The school marching band has a budget of $750, up to $750. So let's think about that. Here's our budget, $750. Can I spend more than $750? Nope, I'll get in trouble. So the money I can spend is got to be less than, can it be equal to? Yep, it says up to $750. So if we write in words first what we're talking about, if we think about that first, it's so much easier to write our inequality. Now, what's part of our inequality? Well, it says covers 15 new uniforms And we have fees to be the fees were $300. How much can they spend on one uniform? So that means that our uniform is our variable. X is uniform, number of uniforms. Okay, I'm not the best at handwriting, so that's supposed to say number of uniforms. Okay, so here we go. We have to spend $300, and then we're going to have 15 uniforms, so 15x. We want that to be less than or equal to 750. Now we're going to solve that inequality. Okay, again, start with the number that's on the same side of the variable, but does not have the variable directly connected. So we get 15x is less than or equal to 450. What do I do now? I have multiplication, so I'm going to divide. Notice I didn't divide by negative, so my inequality sign does not switch. And when I do that, grab your calculator, take 450. So first I want to check my subtraction. Then I'm going to divide that by 15, and I get 30. Okay? So I've solved my inequality. Describe what your solution means. So this means interpret what you've just done. X is less than or equal to 30. What's X? X is the number of uniforms. So you can get 30 uniforms. They can buy 30 uniforms or less. Okay? Good. Next page. Identify the error in generating an expression equivalent to this. Okay, well, before we even start that, the first error is that this is a typo. That should not be an X right there. Okay? That's not supposed to be there. Not supposed to be there. Now, when you get to a problem like this, my recommendation is you do the problem first and then look at their work, because sometimes it's really confusing when we get to their work. Okay? So we're going to look at our work first. I'm just going to go ahead and do this one. I know that that 4 just hangs out and that 2x. Because I know by order of operations, I have to distribute first. So I'm going to take the 1/2 times a 10 and, okay, I'm going to change this to addition, cross the line, change the sign. I'm going to rewrite it as addition. Now, should I write it out? Yes, I should. Plus negative 1/2 times 10 minus 4x. And I'm covering this up because if I see their work, that's sometimes confusing. So I like to just do my own thing first and do the math. So now the 4 plus 2x just kind of hangs out. I'm going to distribute here. And if you like the box method, what you're doing is you're taking 1/2 and you're going to multiply it times 10 and negative 4x. That's what we're doing here. Okay, we're going to multiply those. So taking negative 1/2 times 10, you can use your calculator if you want to, or you could also just say half of 10. That's going to be a negative 5. Ooh, I'm going to change my sign here because I'm bad with negatives. I'm going to take negative 1/2 times negative 4. Negative times a negative is a positive. Half of 4 is 2. Now I'm going to keep going. Now what I like to do here is I like to underline which ones are I like to indicate which ones are my like terms. So I have a 2x and I have a 2x. I'm going to add those together. I have a 4 and I have a negative 5. Okay? So I like to indicate which ones are like terms just by different symbols underneath them. So I'm going to take the 2x plus the 2x and I get 4x. I'm going to take the 4 plus the negative 5 and I get negative 1, or plus a negative 1, either way. Okay, so this is the way we've done the math. Let's go look and see what they did. Okay, so first off, they changed the signs. Okay, legitimate, we can do that. Got the same thing we have here. Then for some reason they changed this back to subtraction. Don't know why they did that, but they changed it back to subtraction. Okay, and then they came up with negative 1. And this is where we're going to pause for a second. We're going to flip to the Schoology assignment because I want to look at the multiple choice. So we're going to look at the multiple choice answers that they have. We've done the problem. We're looking at theirs. And we know there's a mistake from here down to here. Oops, didn't mean to select that. Because he did do that. Oh, okay, it won't undistribute. It won't take it off. I'll just have to click on another one. That's not the answer. Okay, because he did distribute the negative correctly, or she. We don't know. They. So now what we have to do is figure out what did they do. Did they distribute the negative correctly? Yep, they did that. He made an error when combining the x's. Hey, yeah, because look at that. He has a 2x and a 2x. We came up with a 4x. Yep, there's our answer right there. Okay, he combined all like terms first instead of distributing. Nope, we distributed first, and so did he. He made an error when adding the negatives. No, did great with the negatives. 4, -5, -1. So it's because he didn't combine the x's correctly. Okay, good. Let's go back to the page. On number 11, again, if I have to come up with 3 expressions, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the math myself. So I'm going to cross the line and change the sign, cross the line and change the sign. Yes, I should rewrite it. I'm being lazy. I'm going to distribute here. So I'm going to take 4 times 4n. Those of you using the box, which is a wonderful method, you're going to put this right here. Okay? And you're going to come up with 16n plus -36 plus -4n. We're going to combine our like terms, so indicate our like terms right here. 16 and -4 is 12n minus 36, or plus a negative. Okay? Plus a negative might be easier for what we're doing. So let's first, on this, we have to pick 3. So let's go with what our answer is. Our answer is this one right here. Okay, how'd they come up with 24? We have to have 2 terms, because we have an n and we have a whole number. That one doesn't work. They got 20n minus 36. Look, they added. That one doesn't work. Hey, look at that. We're down to just 3. Sometimes that process of elimination is also. Now, if we look at this step, that is the same as our first step. What they do here is something really weird. I don't know why, but they can do it. And if, when you get to this one, you might just have to do this one out and say, okay, what do I have? I have a -9 plus a positive 4n minus 4n. And then I'm going to distribute, and I get -36 plus 16n minus 4n. So if you can't eliminate it, start simplifying them and see what you get. And here we get plus 12n, which is what we had. Okay, so that one does work, but do that process of elimination. It kind of helps. Okay, so same thing here. Take this, and we're going to simplify it, and hopefully you've already done that on your own. So I'm going to go through and change a whole bunch of signs, because I'm bad with negatives. Oh, look right here. We're going to have to distribute. What's the number right there? That's right. That's a 1. That's a 1. We're going to stick a 1 in there so we can distribute it. Now I'm going to change my signs, and I'm going to distribute, and I get -6n plus -2 times -12 is positive 12, plus -7n, -1 times -10 is positive 10. What are my like terms? I have a -6 and a -7. That gives me a -13n. I have a 12 and I have a 10. That's a plus 22. So let's first find our answer. Bam, there it is. Okay, and that means it can't be this one. Knock that one off. Now, let's start looking at what they did here is the same thing we did here. So let's see, -6 plus 10, negative. Hey, that one works. They just have the wrong sign. So they forgot to distribute the negatives right. Okay, so that one works. Now, we have 1, 2. This one we said doesn't work, so we know it has to be this one. But if we did not do process of elimination, we could take this and just simplify it. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm going to keep moving. Okay, number 13. I think this one's tricky, so I do it a different way. I don't look at it like they look at it. So remember, if I take 5 minus 2, isn't that the same as, and I get 3? So couldn't I also take 5 minus 3 and get 2? Yes. So when they say subtract this to get that, I just take the 9x and I subtract this. So I take 9x minus 3x plus 5. Now be very careful here. What I like to do is this is going to be that I distribute. So I'm going to put a 1 in there. Now I'm going to cross the line and change the sign, because I have to remember I'm going to subtract both of them. If I do it this way, I don't have to. So I'm going to get 9x. -1 times 3x is -3x. -1 times 5 is -5. Combine like terms, I get 6x minus 5. So when I subtract, I'm going to get 6x minus 5. I have 6x minus 5. Yay! We're doing great, aren't we? Okay, so on this page, we're just going to distribute. So we're going to take 2 times 5x, 2 times 4, 2 times 5x is 10x, 2 times 2 is 4. Again, you can use the box for this if you'd like to. It's a great way to do it. And we get 10x and 4. Okay? So I'm going to just keep on working through these because I want to make sure we get all of them done before we leave this video. And we have a lot. So here we're going to go. We're going to distribute. We get -18x. -6 times -2 is a positive 12. Again, we're going to distribute. So we're going to get 6x. 6 times 5 is 30. I get to combine like terms. Now, I always start with the variables, and as you found out, a lot of times what they do is they have you write the answer with the variable first. So I always start with the variable. So 9x minus 5x, or I can change that to plus a negative 5x, either way. 9x plus negative 5x is 4x. 3 and 4 is 7. Same thing here. I'm going to distribute here first. So I have x plus negative 16 plus 2, x, combine like terms, distribute, combine like terms. And remember, this is just a refresher. You've probably already done this in your class and gone over it in class, but I just want to refresh your memory. We're going to distribute, combine like terms, but we want to put the variable first. At least a lot of times in the it's going to ask for that. 8 plus 5 is 13. I think on the next page we get to factor. Okay? So, when we factor, remember we want to find what goes into both of them. So look at 55 and 20. A lot of times we can see if the smaller one goes into the bigger one. Does 20 go into 55? If you take out your calculator, you're going to find out that it doesn't. But what does? That's right, 5 does. I can take both of these and divide by 5. So, if I'm using the box method, I have the 55x, and I have the negative 20. The reason I know they're both divisible by 5 is they end up with a 5 and a 0. So that's kind of how you know. So you're going to divide by 5. So what I like to do is just write it right underneath it. I'm going to put a 5 up here. And don't forget that. Your greatest common factor has to go out in front. So make sure you put that greatest common factor there. 55 divided by 5 is 11x. Minus 20 divided by 5, that's 4. Good. Look at 4x and 16. Always look to see if the smaller one goes into the bigger one. Can I take 16 divided by 4? Sure can. So 4 is going to go up here. You can do box method, or you can just divide. You're going to divide either way. 4x divided by x. My 4's cancel. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Greatest common factor. Yep, the small one goes in. So we're going to divide by 3. Remember, you can always pause me or rewind me. That's the beauty of the video. Okay? You can always, if I'm going too fast. Greatest common factor here is 14 doesn't go into 21. But what does? 7. That's right. I can divide them both by a 7. So I get 2x minus 3. Greatest common factor? That's right, 10. Those zeros kind of give you a clue. I like to put my greatest common factor up right away so I don't forget it. And the obvious one here? 11. See how they both have their double digits? So we know that 11 goes into both of them. I'm going to divide by 11 there. And I get 2 plus 5x. Okay, good. Great. Hopefully that helps. Hey guys, let's finish strong. Let's do the best on our final exam. Let's get a good night's sleep before those final exams so we can do well. You've got this, guys. You've got this. Finish strong. Thanks so much, Falcons.